Hi. Hello, I am Jeff Murphy. I am retired in the Philippines. I'm from Minnesota. I lived there all my life, except for 4 years in the Marine Corps. I wanted to do this video because I've been retired over here for a couple of years. I saw a lot of stuff when I was living over there, and now I'm hearing about a lot of stuff and reading about a lot of things going on in America right now. That the things are happening, but a lot of people aren't seeing it or don't want to see it, and if they do, they're not really talking about it. And if people do talk about it, it's rare, you know. So I want to talk about it. First of all, I want to mention about myself. Um, uh, my father left when I was 7. Stepfather moved in when I was 8. He was an alcoholic. So we went through all my teenage years living with an alcoholic, getting beaten, whipped with belts a couple times, hung out downtown on the streets for a couple years with my buddies, joined the Marine Corps at 20 years old, got out at 24, honorable discharge. Did some manual labor for years. I ended up back in jail when I was 27. Did 60 days in Hennepin County jail, Minneapolis. Got out, did manual labor again for years. The, just, I don't know, hooked up with the wrong crowd at times. Got into some trouble again with the desperosity of looking for money. In 1991 to 1994, and at 94, it was at that time where I said, I'm never going back in there again. So I worked manual labor again. I drove a truck. I serviced the porta potties that are all around the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. I did that for 18 years. I consider myself a pretty good employee, and I did it until I retired at 62. And now I've been over here in the Philippines for a couple years, and I'm living on Social Security. I didn't have any savings. I had like 2,000 in savings, but that got spent up, to get set up down here. So, I just want to start off by saying, there's not a lot of white privilege in my life. I've had to struggle and earn everything I've had and try to live my life the best way I could during the bulk of my years, and I'm still living pretty good over here. My thing is the racial tensions over in America, the political chaos. We got Trump in there. I've always said I'm on the fence. I kind of observe who I think personally would do a better job. I voted for George W. Back then, I voted for Obama. I voted for Mitt Romney one time. I voted for Hillary. I voted for Hillary. And when Trump got voted in, I was like, oh my God. But now that he's in, I'm still kind of saying, oh my God, because he's kind of off the wall. But if you look behind the scenes, he's actually doing some good things. He's doing what he said he was going to do. He does it in a non-orthodox manner, but he's getting stuff done. The unemployment's down. The people, most people have more money in their pocket and stuff. So that's kind of where I sit as far as politically and as far as myself. But when I want to talk about the kneelers and the protesters and the racism and all this stuff. I don't really consider myself racist. You can call me racist if you want, but I've been an observer for years. I've got along with pretty much everybody around me all my life. I've never had any issues with me, with blacks, whites, Mexicans, anything. I get along with everybody. But now, I'm sitting over here and I'm able to observe, and it's easy to do because there's not a whole lot to do over here. So I kind of focus on the CNN, the Fox networks, and see the news stories on Facebook, and it's troubling. There's not a lot of blacks being shot lately, but there have been, like 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and things like that, and there are some gung-ho cops out there who are young, probably inexperienced, and there are also cops out there who are prejudiced, and they see these black guys, and their only thought is, I want to shoot them, kill them. So yeah, you're going to run into that once in a while. We just had one in the news, I think a couple weeks ago, but the thing I want to say is there's a lot of guys who get pulled over by cops who aren't the angels that the media portrays, And, if a cop stops you, confronts you, pulls you over or whatever, a lot of these guys who have been shot do the opposite of what they probably should have done, which is hands up, don't show any guns, shut up, don't start mouthing crap to the cops. Do what they order you to do, and chances are, and don't walk towards them in a threatening manner. And if you do the right thing, you'll probably live. A good example is Philando Castile in Minnesota. Everybody was whining and going crazy over that. And granted, that cop shot him sitting in a front seat of a car. He shot him like 7, 8, 9 times. Now I think that cop is in jail, and he should be. There's no reason to shoot somebody like that many times, especially when you got a woman and a kid in the back seat. But for Philando and his family, he could have avoided all that. He let the cop know in advance that he's got a weapon. He's got a conceal and carry permit, which is cool. But when the confrontation came and the cop was standing right there all agitated, instead of, putting his hands behind his neck and saying, "Officer, what do you want me to do?" You gotta be responsible like that. You got your woman and the kid in the back. If he did that, he'd probably be alive right now. But instead, I don't know what he was saying to the cop after he mentioned he had a gun, but the cop ordered him to raise his hands or whatever. But instead, he did the opposite. He started leaning down like he's going to grab something off the floor. And of course, the cop's thinking, well, he's grabbing for his gun. So the cop went nuts and shot him too many times. But the fact of the matter is, if he would have went the other way like this, the dude would probably be alive today. They could have avoided all them protests. His family would be happy. Apparently, he was a great guy, so you gotta be careful what you do with police officers nowadays, in case people don't keep up on it. There's a lot of cops around the country being shot right now. They're being called on domestic calls and then being ambushed. They're being killed when they pull people over on the highways, the cop comes up to the car and they get blown away. You know, that's been going on for years now. So the cops these days are not messing around, and people should know that. People, these youths under 30 should be told that, screamed to about that, and how to act when they're pulled over or confronted by police officers. If you want to live, just get on your knees, put your hands behind your back, or put your hands like this. Do anything except lip off to them and start moving towards them, and you got all these people, your friends or whatever, breaking out their video cameras, just hoping that the cops or managers or authority figures will do something wrong so they can have it on video, and say, well, he was wrong. And it's just becoming a big mess over there. But, obviously, I'm just some guy in the Philippines. I'm a nobody, basically. But I'm not afraid to speak my mind and see these things for what they are. You got a lot of celebrities in Hollywood that are bitching and whining. You got NFL players kneeling. Lots of people making millions upon millions of dollars that if they directed their anger and money or towards getting word to these youths. I'm talking about people under 30 years old. And yeah, it's a lot of it is the blacks. Get word to these people, scare them straight. Get some programs going. Instead of whining and bitching about being wronged and playing victims every day, have these celebrities and people explain to them exactly what they probably should be doing. I mean, and the drugs. I haven't even got to the shootings yet. All these shootings in these major metro areas, but the drugs. When you're 18, 19, 20, 21, yeah, experiment with drugs, have fun. You just turned 21, you want to have a big birthday, that's all great, But when you get to be 27, 28, 29, 30, it's time to tone it down a few notches and start building a life for yourself, a life that you can be proud of, your family can be proud of. But a lot of these people are just, going the other way. They're somehow getting their hands on guns, playing hot shots, shooting each other all over the place. The jails are just filled with people in these major metro areas. This is all elementary. Everybody knows this, but nobody really delves into it like I'm delving into it right now. Instead of, I'll say it again, instead of playing the victim and basically supporting these people who are not acting the way they probably should, use your celebrity, your influence to talk to these people and say, hey, it's a different time now. There's too much violence out there. There's too many brothers being shot, which is true. Find different paths in life. Drop that bad attitude. And try and get on a positive track for yourself and do yourself good. By the time you can do it younger, but when you're 28, 29, it's time to start, getting down to the business of life. And that's the main thing I want to say is nobody is talking to these youth. Maybe there's a few parents out there who are talking to them, but that's not good enough. There's a lot of people that all these, so-called thugs or gang wannabes or whatever, these people look up to, including the rappers, use some of your time, influence, and money to direct everything towards these people and say, you guys, this is what you should do when you get confronted by a cop. This is what you should probably do, and just talk to them like that. But as long as the victimization era continues, this is never going to change. So that's pretty much what I got on that. Let's see, I got a few notes. Let me see if I got any more on this. Okay, as far as minorities go, I want to go a little bit into the Mexicans deal. It's not just the Mexicans. It's a lot of people south of the border. Obviously, they're trying to sneak across the border. They want to avoid the checkpoints, because if they go to the checkpoints, they'll be turned away. So they go through the border under Arizona, under New Mexico or whatever, and try and sneak across. If you do that, you're taking your own life and your kids, if you got some, in your own hands. Granted, if I was in Venezuela or southern Mexico and there were gangs all over the place and things were horrible, if I was in their shoes, I would probably try to do the same thing, but it's a different country. The U.S. is a different country, especially now with Trump in charge. The Border Patrol is getting more focus, ICE, and the chances are, no matter where you go through on the border, you're probably going to get caught. And if you get caught, they have protocols. They got to separate the kids. That's the way it is. I mean, as far as they're concerned, are they really your kids, or are you just using them as pawns to get across the border? And if they see you got kids, they will be lighter on you. It could be many different things. I'm sure there's a lot of legit moms and dads and kids going across. But when they get across, they got to be separated. You can't process and interview adults when you got kids hanging on your pants, screaming, telling you everybody they're hungry or whatever. So yeah, they got to be separated, and they're going to be separated longer if the adults, it turns out, they've been deported before, and the paperwork comes up, and then it's a whole protocol to get them re-deported, and if they do, what are they going to do with the kids that came with them? So it's a process. But yeah, they're separated at the border. When you're coming up through Mexico, you got to know what's happening up there and expect it. And if nothing happens and you happen to get through and find a town and start living, hey, power to you. But if you run through the border at midnight and there's no checkpoint, and next thing you know, you're running through somebody's backyard in Arizona or something, and the homeowners see you, they're going to call the cops, and whatever happens is what may happen. I don't. It's just the way things are right now, and let me see something. It's just the way things are right now. And again, it's the old story. The Mexicans, they work really hard. I worked with 10 of them when I worked at on-site, when I was doing the porta potties, driving. They paid good money. They had overtime. It was a family company, family-owned company. There was like 10 Mexicans, 4 blacks, and about 8 whites, I believe. And I was happy there. I was there for 18 years. It was great. I had friends and everything. And but yeah, just there's a lot of immigrants coming over that piss the original citizens off by going out of their way not to have to pay taxes, stuff like that. Sometimes between half and 3/4 of the money they make is immediately shipped out of the country, which is kind of understandable. They got to help people back home. But at the same time, that is not really helping the country that they're in. When you couple the money going out and the not paying taxes. These guys write ridiculous numbers on these W-4 forms when they apply, just so they don't have to pay any tax or very little tax. It's just it's a game. It's a chaotic game. And a lot of the original citizens in America, they know about this. A lot of people know about these things going on, but a lot of people choose to turn the other way and look around. There's a lot of people that don't, turn around. But I, for one, am willing to come out and speak about it, saying this is bullshit. If you want to come to this country, keep your money here, pay your taxes, be good. Don't get in trouble. Of course, the bottom line under that is come here legally. And there's so many people that want to come to America. There's a lot of competition for people wanting to get approved visas. So that's a pain in the ass. But what I'm saying is if you come here illegally, you can expect consequences.